Ladies and gentlemen, the Football Scoop podcast is back. You know us. I'm Scott. That's Zach. That's John. That's Doug. I just got these guys on. There's a mention of Doug's wearing a beanie. Doug says it's cold where he is. Not surprising because he's in Michigan. Doug, give me a temp check.
Yeah, it was 2 degrees when I walked my kids out to the bus. For some reason, I had shorts on to do that, which wasn't the brightest thing. Thankfully, didn't even get to the bus stop, and the bus was already there, so I just sent them on their way and turned around and headed back. But beanie hasn't come off since I came in the house. Like, when you shave your head, now there's a difference between being bald and shaving your head. When I shave my head, it's a choice. It's cold. Like, if you don't have hair, it's considerably colder.
You had shorts on because you're a real man. That's why you had shorts on. I appreciate that. You should always eschew pants for shorts anytime possible. I proudly donned shorts to go to the gym during the polar vortex 5 years ago or whatever it was. Now I had a hoodie on for sure, and I didn't dawdle in the parking lot. But that's when it was wind chill in the minus 30s, and I wore shorts to the gym. So
there's plenty of coaches out there that are shorts no matter what on game day. I'm not that guy.
The University of Tennessee football managers years ago, all of them, including Frage and Max, who have been there since the 80s, they would wear shorts no matter what, no matter the venue. And it might have been the 2015 game in Missouri when it was like wind chills of -3 that forced those guys to reassess. Although Max Parrott might have still worn shorts in that environment. It was impressive.
All right, Doug, before you answer, I'm gonna take a quick poll of the rest of us. What kind of footwear do we think Doug was wearing when he went out at -2 to walk the kids to the bus?
Slides.
I think that's the answer, but at the same time, I picture Doug in some form of Jordans like 24/7.
Yeah, there's some pretty awesome Nike. I can't remember what they're called. Nike boots. Like they've got.
I was gonna say boots.
Yeah, Nike boots. They got like some spikes on the toe that are pretty sweet looking.
Like the ACGs or something?
Something like that. Yeah, they're not ACGs. Lunar something is what they are. Yeah, they're awesome.
So some days we get together and we kind of have a topic we want to talk about. Today, the floor is open. Gentlemen, what do we want to talk about? Zach, you got any thoughts?
I have one. So as we speak, this is Tuesday. This is Tuesday, correct? The SEC and Big Ten, the SEC leaders, 80s, are in New Orleans. The Big Ten leaders planning to join them. And they're basically gathering to decide how they want to divide up the college football world moving forward. And everyone else is expected to just kind of go along with it. So as we know, the current 12-team playoff contract expires after the 2025 season. And so we have a TV deal in place for 26 through 31 seasons, but we have no format. And so the SEC and Big Ten are getting together to decide what they want the format to be, and the rest of us are expected to go along with it. And so the leading proposal, it seems, is a 14-team playoff with as many as 4 automatic spots for their conferences, which would take up half to over half of the field. And the ACC and Big 12 are expected to have 2. So when the 12-team playoff was conceived, it was 6 automatic bids for the top 6 conference champions, with the top 4 conference champions getting by, and then 6 at-large bids, excuse me. So these 6 plus 6. Nice, neat, and tidy, easy to understand. As we know, the Big Ten rated the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 is no longer. So that went to 5 plus 7. So I'm quoting here from Ross Dellinger's piece at Yahoo. Quote, officials describe the 14-team format as 4-2-2-2-1 plus 1 model. If you could follow that, you're the first. So I kind of want to just open the forum. I feel like I'm going to be in the majority here that everyone hates this, but I wanted to open the floor. Does anyone think awarding 4 spots for the SEC and the Big Ten is a good idea? And perhaps I'm in the minority.
Well, don't guarantee it, but the Big Ten earned 4 spots this past playoff iteration, and I see Doug nodding his head. He should be nodding his head and gloating because he nailed his damn bold prediction. But no, it's stupid. They finally, I feel like, got the field right for this past playoff format. What they need to fix is the seeding, because there were teams that got buys that had no business getting buys just because they won substandard conferences. Give them guaranteed spots in the field. Do not give them guaranteed 1 through 4 seeds.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And as a Big Ten homer, I hate the idea. I've seen people online talk about if this is the model they want to go with, this is not a playoff, it's an invitational. And I know college basketball uses that term a lot, and really that's what it becomes, is an invitational. Not the best teams making it in. It's these top big money conferences are getting their top teams in, and everyone else can kind of sort it out. I don't think that's good for college football, period.
I'm a capitalist. I also believe in small government. I don't love a bunch of regulation, so I don't love regulating this many slots go to these conferences. I also believe the Big Ten and the SEC play grown man football, and I think they would earn their way into those spots. But I don't believe in overregulation. I think it's not a great idea to mandate or regulate that the SEC has a guaranteed 4 spots. That's ridiculous. Earn your 4 spots. Don't be soft. It's motto in life. Don't be soft.
I agree. I think if you want to expand it, whatever. I think the irony here is when this all started years ago, Greg Sankey was of the idea of, hey, let's just go no automatic bids and let's just make it all at large and you earn your way in. And now he's gone to use a Scott Russell term, soft position, to where now we're guaranteeing our fourth place team gets a spot. So we will go from a format from 1869 to 2023, where if you play a college football season and you lose one time, your season may be done. Florida State didn't lose at all in 2023. They didn't get a chance to play for a national championship. We've gone from that to potentially going in 3 years' time to starting a season where if we just get 4th place in our conference, we're good to go. Our goal is to get 4th place. That sounds like the most un-American sentence I've ever heard in my life. And going even further than that, there's talk out there of, if you're the SEC and the Big Ten, hey, maybe we don't even need to have a championship game per se where we play our 1 versus 2. Maybe those teams can get an automatic bid, and then we could just do a play-in to where maybe our 4th place plays our 5th place, and our 3rd place plays our 6th place team. And the winner of that game gets our 3rd and 4th bids. So now you're going from, if we lose a game at all, our season may be over, to, you know what, guys, let's just get 6th place, and then we'll get hot from there and go play for a national championship. Like, who's asking for this? Who decided this is a good idea? And has anyone in there consulted a player? Has anyone consulted what the fans may want? Because we all need to remember, everyone in college football earns a living because of 2 groups of people. Number 1, the players. There is no sport without players. And number 2, the fans. They're what makes this sport what it is. No one's asked for what's best for our players, what's best for our fans. And this is, to me, a continuation of a theme we've seen in American life of executives getting in a room, deciding what's best for everyone else without consulting anyone outside the room. I think it's terrible. I think there's a line of thinking out there. I've heard other people say that the people in charge of college football don't like or care about college football, and I think that's unfair. But now I'm really beginning to think that those people are right, and none of these people even understand the sport that they're supposed to be leading.
I love your passion there, brother Zach, and I feel like even especially with your hearkenings of un-American and Americana, that you've got some President's Day spirit bleeding over into today's podcast. I'm fired up. I'm not even going to eat anything but American fries and baked potatoes. I'm not even going to acknowledge those other things today. I do agree with you. I would also say, let's not forget, it was 4.5 years ago, basically, that they dropped the 12-team playoff proposal on everyone and came out of their conferences, that formation committee, whatever, it was Sankey and Bowlesby and Swarbrick and all those guys. And they acted like they exited that meeting singing Kumbaya. And 2 weeks later, Greg Sankey was poaching Oklahoma and Texas from the Big 12. So these guys can't even be trusted when they're in a room together, let alone when they're not in a room together. Also, if Greg Sankey wants to have 4 guaranteed spots for the SEC, I want Greg Sankey to post his contract online. Let's know how much of a bonus he gets from the SEC based on how many of his teams are in the playoff. And furthermore, I would point out, again, they got the freaking field right in 2024, the first time with 12 teams. You can't sit there and say some SEC team didn't get in that deserved it. South Carolina, get out. Ole Miss, don't lose to Florida. Alabama, don't get your pants dropped by Oklahoma that couldn't even score most of the year. And then beyond that, the big bad SEC went 2-3 in the 12-team playoff with 3 teams in there. And the only team that won 2 games wasn't in the SEC a year ago.
And to your point, John, I think that leads me into something else I wanted to say was the original format. If we had stayed where we were, imagine a 2024 season where you still have a Pac-12 and Oregon is your Pac-12 champion, Ohio State's your Big 10 champion, Texas is your Big 12 champion, and Georgia is your SEC champion. Those 4 teams get the buys, and everyone's saying, hey, this format makes a lot of sense. This works for everyone. Now the line out of the SEC is, well, it's not really equitable for us because we have most of the teams. And we stand above our supposed peers. Well, why is that? It's because you destroyed the Pac-12, you pillaged the Big 12, and now you're saying, well, it's unfair to us. Well, why is it unfair? It's because you did what's best for yourself without regard to what's best for the game, and now you're trying to rig it in your favor. If I'm in those meetings, it'd be hard for me to not just get up and walk out if I'm leading the ACC or the Big 12 or the Pac-12, because they're the reason we got to this situation in the first place.
Yeah, we could probably spin off a whole other pod about talking to the players and getting their input. And, we haven't probably heard enough from the players. And I think this spring camp around the programs that were members of the 12-team playoff will be a good time for people to ask the players, how did your body recover after the longest season in the history of college football? It's no secret I live here in South Bend, so I'm sure that'll be a question that I and other reporters around here ask when Notre Dame opens spring camp next month. Also, there should be more voice to the fans, because even before there was that heinous terrorist attack in New Orleans and I was down there covering the Sugar Bowl, tickets had dropped to like $48 a piece. You can go back and look, and I want to say Penn State in the Peach Bowl, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, I think those tickets were selling for $33, $28. Fans were having to make hard decisions. So how much of this do you want to continue expanding it and have even more empty stadiums, or partially empty or 2/3 empty stadiums in what's supposed to be your showcase time of the year? Also, I feel like Zach and I need to absolutely cede the floor to Doug and Scott, because nobody listening even knows if they're still breathing.
I think this has been one of our best pods ever. I think this has been fantastic. I might even cut this whole thing up. It was a great conversation. We've solved the world's problems. Just go back to open, earn your way in. Yeah, I agree with John. Getting the seating right is critically important, and who gets the buys and all that stuff. That's more important than SEC and Big Ten have 4 guaranteed spots. That's ridiculous. Although, Zach, catch me up. What they're proposing, you wind up with, so you have 4, 4, 2, and 2. So that's 12. So you have either 2 or 4, depending on if it's a 14 or a 16 playoff. You have either 2 or 4 at large, or is there a guaranteed group of 5, or what?
So if I can devise this math formula they dropped on us. So 4 for the SEC, 4 for the Big 10, 2 for the ACC, 2 for the Big 12.
So that's 12.
One group of 5, and then 1 at large.
If it's a 14 team,
yes,
that would be 1 at
yes.
large. If it's a 16,
yes.
You'd have 3 at large.
That is my understanding. Yes.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. Okay.
Yeah, and if Notre Dame is in the top 14, then that at large would just automatically go to Notre Dame,
which is a crock in itself, in my opinion, and we can probably have a whole pot on that. But to me, Notre Dame has the easiest path to the playoff each year. I know they've got a tough schedule. I know they go out and schedule some big dogs, but they're not at the same. It's not the same as a Big Ten schedule or an SEC schedule. It's considerably different, and that's a hill I'll die on.
Dude, what? Notre Dame's schedule is nothing. It is. I'm sorry. It is nowhere near easy.
Yeah, I'd say Indiana had a much easier path to the playoff
Much
this past
easier.
year than Notre Dame did.
Notre Dame plays a heck of a schedule every year, I find.
Now, to Doug's point, Notre Dame's 2024 schedule was such that once they lost week 2 to Northern Illinois, they literally couldn't lose again, or they didn't have a path into the playoffs. And now it's not Notre Dame's fault that they've entered into this, this handshake agreement that you trust, not even while your palms are touching, to shake hands with the ACC, and they schedule 5 ACC teams every year, and the ACC flat out sucks right now. So that's not Notre Dame's fault. But Doug's right. Like, they have some breaks, they have some knocks against them. I was just discussing this with a college football GM actually yesterday. Notre Dame, for whatever stupid reason, is hell-bent on never ending its regular season with a home game. Like, the entire time I've lived up here, Notre Dame ends its season every year with a West Coast trip, either to USC or to Stanford. This past season, Notre Dame ended its season with consecutive games in New York against Army and in Los Angeles against USC, again, with no margin for error, and an Army team having a generational season and a USC team that underperformed but never lacked for talent. Notre Dame has some it doesn't have to play a conference championship game. I think that's very significant. I think this whole playoff expansion, though, is bringing about the inevitable end of conference championship games, which, by the way, is another element to Zach's point that fans, by and large, have loved since they were founded in 1992. It's been something that fans have really embraced and looked forward to, and they were also fairly regional, so you could make that drive in a day and not bankrupt yourself or ruin your Christmas budget to go to this extra football game and still have a chance for a bowl game or a playoff. So, Notre Dame's upcoming schedule has, let's see, it's got Boise State on there, obviously a reigning playoff team.
I've got it pulled up in front of me, JB. So they're at Miami, home against A&M, at Arkansas. They get Boise State. USC comes to town. Is it the toughest schedule? No, but I wouldn't say it's a glide path either.
I'm not saying it's easy, smooth sailing. And part of where I'm coming from, I think, is just being a bitter Midwest person that if Notre Dame was going to join a conference, it should be the Big Ten, no questions asked. Don't skirt away to the ACC and do a scheduling agreement there. Schedule with the teams everyone can drive to and have a good time. To me, that's where my bitterness, I think, is rooted. As long as they have a 1 or 2 loss season, let's say, that they're kind of in, and then we lose out on a team like Army, who would be a great story in the current format. And I think that's where my beef is.
Our Army would be a great story. I completely agree. And you know that. You guys all know how much I respect Jeff Monken, and don't think any of us anywhere who talks college football talks enough about what he's done with that program. Having said that, though, Doug, like, if there's a 1 or 2 loss SEC team, they're never getting left out of this playoff format. So you can't say, well, this is what it works out for Notre Dame, but that same characteristic wouldn't work out for a Big Ten or an SEC school, because any 1 or 2 loss SEC or Big Ten school is getting in. I wholly agree with your argument about the scheduling partnership, and it should be with the Big Ten. So you can be bitter about that schedule. I don't even think you're bitter. I just think you're freaking right. So you can be right about that scheduling arrangement and the fact that Notre Dame is Big Ten in hockey, but not in basketball or whatever. But don't make it skew your view for football. It can be a lousy schedule arrangement, and Notre Dame can also most years belong in the playoffs. I think Notre Dame's going to have a tough row to hoe, so to speak, this year to be a repeat playoff participant for the first time in the history of the college football playoff.
Well, the good news is we have really strong leadership at the top of college football. So they'll make sure that what we said, earn your
the
way
right
in
thing
happens. Right.
Oh, I wanted to add one thing because I thought this got lost, and I was at the press conference in Miami when James Franklin started talking about how much Notre Dame needs to be in a conference. Apparently, Doug's a speechwriter, and I didn't know this. So James Franklin was excellent in Miami about Notre Dame's need to be in a conference. Excellent from his talking points, whether you agree with his opinion or not. And then that's also the day where he really ticked off Marcus Freeman and talked about how young Marcus was up there and talked about his hairline and all this stuff. But anyway, so all of that caused his best statement of the day to get lost, and that is he questioned the length of the college football season in this present form, and he asked, what do we do about it? Do we start the games a week early? Well, let's not forget that we already, by starting games the last weekend of August, are seeing contests that get delayed for heat, are seeing contests that can't kick off sometimes till hours after their scheduled kickoff because the heat index is so dangerous. And so while you've got to do something to build in an extra open date or figure out the length of the season, there's too many places that you truly cannot start August 24th this year instead of August 31st or August 23rd instead of August 30th because it's too freaking hot. So that's another issue. They want to expand the playoff, but they still don't have the length of the season fixed.
Didn't we start this podcast with the mantra of "Don't be soft"? Goodness, JB, it's too hot.
Don't be soft. Don't be soft.
What is too high? What does that even mean?
Too hot. Too
I
hot.
was joking. Come on, JB, hydrate. You'll be fine. You can handle
I'll be
this.
fine.
There's one answer, and it's the same thing that all those southern schools use for spring ball. They have to go right away in the morning. So let's SEC games kick off at 8 a.m. College game day starts a little bit earlier, and let's go all day.
That's what we all need. We all need Desmond Howard at 6 a.m.
You Midwesterners are soft. Goodness gracious.
Oh, listen to this guy.
Zach and I got our kids out here doing 2-a-days all August. I don't
You
need
live
to
in
do this.
Central Time. Nobody's listening to you.
I was thinking we might talk about 3 or 4 different topics, but I'm thrilled with this. This podcast is over because it was fantastic. I loved every second of it. I will call Sankey and see if I can get him to listen to us and just go, hey, earn your way in, dude.
Yeah, just give him my number, please.
Yeah. Make sure you get a handshake. It means everything.
It just means more, gentlemen. We're the Football Scoop Podcast. We appreciate you joining. Tell your friends. This was a great show. We'll do more of these more often.